Short, but still a very startling story to me. My dad was out for a job interview, so me and my sister had the place for ourselves for about 2 hours. I watched TV downstairs and went outside, and when I went back in, I left the door unlocked for my dad. Since it was getting close to the time he said he'd be home, I went upstairs and hung out with my sister for a while. I heard the front door open and rummaging through the cabinets as well. I just assumed that it was my dad, since he always likes to check everything is in place before relaxing. I also heard my dad's door open and close, albeit slowly, a few times. I was talking with my sister when the phone rang. To my surprise, it was my dad on the other end. He told me that he was going to be getting home late and that we needed to make our own dinners. It felt like my heart fell to my heart. I realized that it wasn't my dad that had entered the home. I hurriedly rushed downstairs to see if everything was okay. Several things were gone and the front door was wide open. I then heard what sounded like breathing coming from the downstairs bathroom. I choked the urge to yell as I saw a hand wrap around the door and a face peer around my corner. As soon as the guy saw me, he ran like hell out of there. I chased after him, but he was long gone. On the floor in the bathroom, I found later, of all things, a box cutter knife. I am not sure what his intentions were with the weapon, but they weren't good if anything. I called the police soon after, but they could never find him. My dad always calls now when he's heading home to make sure I know he's gone still. To home intruder, let's never ever meet in a lifetime. Today I went to the movies to see Deadpool. Alongside me was my stepmother, who has recently been training to be a cop. In the beginning everything was going normally and everything was good. I loved the movie and had seen it once before this. Toward the end of the movie though, I noticed an older man who had walked to the top of the theater, where me and my stepmother were sitting, and he sat there. He didn't watch the movie, he didn't sit down, didn't do anything except stare at the people. I blew it off thinking he was looking for someone and couldn't find them. He then went down toward the entrance of the room and did the same thing. Looked up at everyone and stared for another 7 to 10 minutes before leaving. I thought it was odd but continued watching the movie. About 2 minutes later, I see the same old man walk in. Only this time, he walked very slowly across the theater, not facing the screen or anything, but once again looking at all the people. My stepmother looked at me and whispered, "Grab your things and head to the lobby." I began to get a little freaked out and did what she said. I went to the bathroom to pee, and when I came out, there was 4 workers standing outside the theater, and she was explaining how his behavior was like that of someone about to shoot up a room. He was scanning the room and everyone in it. After a while, the workers took control of the situation and watched the man for a bit just to make sure everything was well. 2 workers went in, and after about 5 minutes, they came out saying, "Yeah, dude, he's still standing there and staring at everyone." Soon after, we left the theater just to be safe. Once getting home, she had called one of her friends that works at the police station and talked to them about it. They said he was a middle-aged man and he had a loaded weapon on him the whole time he was there, and never once sat down or stopped looking at everybody. So this was told to me by an old family friend, Nikki, numerous times as a kid growing up, as one of those life advice stories to keep in mind through the years, and to her credit, I have never forgotten it. Whenever anything associated with hitchhiking comes up, it always springs to mind, and probably always will. Makes me a bit ill whenever I actually think about it. So, Nikki, who grew up at the same time as my dad, so this was about early 80s, I believe, was a young woman in her mid-20s. She's one of those real kind-hearted souls, always willing to help another out in a time of need, you know. And I can't imagine her being anything other than that when she was younger, so I totally see her doing this too. So driving to the city about an hour or so drive from the town, she saw a man walking down the side of the road. As she neared, he turned and, in a typical hitchhiking manner, stuck out the old arm and thumb. Nikki, bless her heart, pulled over and asked him if he needed any help. She told me that he was really polite, if not a bit shy, when he asked for a lift into the city. Nikki gave a smile and popped open the passenger door for the guy, who tossed his bag into the back seat and buckled up for the ride ahead. They talked pleasantly for most of the trip, about friends, the news, etc., happy small talk. She felt that they were getting on really well, and even bought him dinner at the pit stop a little over halfway there. She says he seemed really flustered and awkward when she paid, but one of the things they had talked about was money and how he was pretty dang strapped for cash, which is why he was hitchhiking in the first place. But he eventually relented and they went on their way. As soon as they got into the city, he thanked her profusely for the ride and the food and asked to be dropped off once they hit downtown. Before getting out, he asked for Nikki's phone number so he could contact her someday and catch up. Thrilled at the prospect of knowing how her new friend was faring, Nikki wrote it down for him and drove off with the warm feeling of a good deed done. Now, I'm sorry if you were expecting something creepy to have happened by now, but I think this is what freaked me so much as a kid. How nice everything seemed to have worked out. Nikki gets this crease in her forehead and a funny look in her eye when she tells me the next part. How a week later, she got a phone call from her driving buddy. He didn't let her get a word in edgewise after hello and told her that she should thank God that she was raised so nice. Because when he first got in the car, he was planning on raping and murdering her once they got to that pit stop. He was going to steal that car and dump her body in a ditch further down the road and go on his merry way. But after she talked with him so kindly and treated him to dinner with a smile on her face, he couldn't bring himself to do it. He didn't think that he could live with himself after doing that to such a nice lady. And to please, Nikki, please, never ever pick up another hitchhiker. Then he hung up the phone. Nikki never got a call from him again. When she tried redialing the number, she got a payphone. And so, Mr. Hitchhiker, I know I'm never going to meet you because I'm going to listen to the advice you gave your driving buddy that never ever pick up a hitchhiker.